Brakatah Yahweh, Brakatah Yahweh Shai, Brakatah Yahweh, Brakatah Yahweh Shai, Brakatah Yahweh, Brakatah Yahweh Shai. Blessed be the true, holy, powerful, mighty name of the Heavenly Father Yahweh, and blessed be the true, holy, powerful, mighty name of His only begotten Son Yahweh Shai, our Lord and our Savior. The Thamashnakabala Zakumishar Sharala, get double honors to the elders of Israel, being the apostles and the elders of great millstone that rule well. Shalom Wahabla Bakhir Shar Sharala, which is peace and love to the elect of Israel. Come back at y'all again with the lesson by Harakha Amaf and the Holy Spirit of Truth. And the title of this video is going to be Fuck the King's Commandment. All right, fuck the King's Commandment. All right, we're just gonna hop right into it. It's the book of Hebrews. All right, I'm gonna need this light. It's the book of Hebrews, chapter 11 and verse Hebrews chapter 11 and verse 23. It says, by faith, we call this chapter the Hall of Faith, right? It says, by faith, Moses, when he was come to years, refused to be called the son of Pharaoh's daughter, choosing rather, Salakia. I read verse 24. I meant to start at 23. Salakia. By faith, Moses, when he was born, was hid 3 months of his parents, because they saw he was a proper child, and they were not afraid of the king's commandment. They were not afraid of the king's commandment. What was the king's commandment? The king's commandment was all the boys that were being born, all the male children that were being born were to be put to death. You read that in the book of Exodus, the 2nd chapter, right? They was throwing our babies into the river, right? But his parents, despising the king's commandments, they hid Moses, right? They hid, and when they could hide him no more, the Lord protected him, right? The Lord protected him. She put him, you got to go into the count, right? She put him into the river, right? And he floated to Pharaoh's daughter, right? That was all the spirit of Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shai. That was the Lord's doing, man. But the point is that they said they weren't afraid of the king's commandments. So the king of Babylon, he's making commandments. He's passing legislation, executive orders, unrighteous decrees. All right, and it's gonna get tighter and tighter on this earth and in this society. All right, and pretty soon he's gonna implement a specific commandment, and this specific commandment is written about in Revelations 13 and 16. He causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor. He causeth all. That's a commandment, right? That's a law. He causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive the mark in their right hand or in their forehead. Okay? Soon that's going to be the king's commandment. That's what everything is building up to. The CBDC, right? The collapse of the dollar, the destruction of this economy. Okay, the demic that happened a couple years ago, that was all to get them closer to enforcing the digital all. All right, the C to the H to the I to the P, the MARK that we just quoted in Revelations 13. All right, soon that decree is going to be enforced, and we gotta have that faith that Moses' parents had. Right, we're not afraid of the king's commandment. Right. I'll just continue to read this Hebrews chapter. I'm going to read it again and then just read down a little bit. Hebrews chapter 11 and 23. By faith, Moses, when he was born, was hid 3 months of his parents, because they saw he was a proper child, and they were not afraid of the king's commandment. By faith, Moses, when he was come to years, refused to be called the son of Pharaoh's daughter, choosing rather to suffer affliction with the people of Yahweh than to enjoy the pleasures of sin for a season. So Moses, he completely forsook the life that he had, and he was living luxurious. He was living than any of us is living today. He was on top. He was one of the top guys in ancient Egypt. It said that he forsook all of that. He was looked at as a prince in Egypt. He was being called the son of Pharaoh's daughter. Royalty is how he was looked at in Egypt, and he forsook that. Said that he chose rather to suffer with the children of Yahweh by Hashem Yahweh Shai, right? Than to enjoy the pleasures of sin for a season. So how much more us? He forsook riches. Ain't none of us rich. You know, it don't matter how much money you got. Ain't none of us got that same type of pull that Moses had in ancient Egypt, man. So we have to follow that same example here in modern day Egypt, the same example of Moses and his parents. All right. And that's how we're going to get this great, glorious inheritance that's soon to be established upon the planet Earth. All right, let's move. Let's go from there. I want to back that up with Maccabees. 2 Maccabees chapter 6. 2 Maccabees chapter 6 and verse, man. This whole chapter, I'm going to start at verse 18. This is 2 Maccabees 6 and verse 18. It says, Eleazar, one of the principal scribes, an aged man of Slakia and of a well-favored countenance, was constrained to open his mouth and to eat swine's flesh. But he, choosing rather to die gloriously than to live stained with such an abomination, spit it forth and came of his own accord to the torment. So he didn't give a fuck, right? I think I might have to start up. Let me start at verse 1. This is 2 Maccabees 6 and 1. Not long after this, the king sent an old man of Athens to compel the Jews to depart from the laws of their fathers and not to live after the laws of Yahweh, and to pollute also the temple in Jerusalem, and to call it the temple of Jupiter Olympius, and that in Gerizim of Jupiter, the defender of strangers, as they did desire that dwelt in that place. The coming in of this mischief was sore and grievous to the people, for the temple was filled with riot and reveling by the Gentiles, who dally with harlots. And you got to pay for that. You got to pay for that, man. Salakia, who dally with harlots and had to do with women I want to make sure this is still recording. Let me see. Khan, Salakia, man. I didn't even really want to do it like that. I don't like breaking the videos up. But I know the last time I was recording on this and I had my car on at the same time, it like hooked up to the Bluetooth and I was unable to and I couldn't even hear, like, the audio messed up or whatever. Salakia, I apologize for that. But anyways, let's continue on. Lord's will, I'll be able to doctor it and put it together. This is the book of 2 Maccabees chapter 6. Continuing on, 2 Maccabees chapter 6 and verse 4. For the temple was filled with riot and reveling by the Gentiles who dally with harlots, and had to do with women within the circuit of the holy places, and besides that, brought in things that were not lawful. The altar was filled with profane things, which the law forbiddeth. Neither was it lawful for a man to keep Sabbath days or ancient feasts, or to profess himself at all to be a Jew. So they outlawed us keeping the Sabbath. They outlawed us keeping our customs. And they even outlawed us even claiming that we're the Jews, that we're the Israelites. The same thing is going to happen here in the times that we living in. Soon, the king is going to make a commandment. Anybody that's an Israelite, you're about to be arrested. You're about to be constrained, okay? That's what everything is leading up to. This devil's going to come down having great wrath because he knows that he has but a short time. And when he does, we still have to apply what's written, man. Okay? We still have to keep our integrity when this devil comes down as a madman, sparing none. Right? So I'm going to jump down. I started up to show you that he put it into law. He was enforcing this. He was enforcing this upon all the people. Right? That you can't keep the customs of our forefathers. That was the commandment of the king. So jumping down, this is second Maccabees chapter 6 I'm going to just continue to read and then I'll jump down. It says, this is 2 Maccabees 6:6. Neither was it lawful for a man to keep Sabbath days or ancient feasts, or to profess himself at all to be a Jew. And in the day of the king's birth, every month they were brought by bitter constraint to eat of the sacrifices. And when the feast of Bacchus was kept, the Jews were compelled to go in procession to Bacchus, carrying ivy. Moreover, there went out a decree, a law, a commandment to the neighbor cities of the heathen by the suggestion of Ptolemy against the Jews, that they should observe the same fashions and be partakers of their sacrifices. So again, it was put into law. It was commanded. It was a decree that was enforced. Jumping down, this is the book of 2 Maccabees chapter 6. I would like to read this whole chapter, but for time's sake. 2 Maccabees chapter 6 and verse 18. Eleazar, one of the principal scribes, an aged man, and of a well-favored countenance, was constrained to open his mouth and to eat swine's flesh. But he, choosing rather to die gloriously, this has to be, I pray Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai put that spirit on me in these times that we coming into. If I must be faced with death, if I must be faced with a guillotine, if they grab me up and throw me into a camp, this has to be our mentality. And we got to pray for this spirit, man. I can say right now all I want. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. But it's Adawan Ratazah. It's Lord's will. Okay? Lord willing. This is our mentality. This is the spirit that's on us in the times that we coming into. When you read the next chapter, it talks about the woman who had 7 sons. Right? It said that upon her was spirits, courageous spirits was put upon her. This is the book of 2 Maccabees 7 and 20. It says, but the mother was marvelous above all and worthy of honorable memory. For when she saw her 7 sons slain within the space of one day, she bare it with a good courage because of the hope that she had in the Lord. She bared it with a good courage. And we got anything we go through, not just, the death, you know what I'm saying? But life. Life is hard. Death is easy, man. All right. Anything that we deal with in this life, we got to bear it with a good courage and continue to have the hope in Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai, which is the anchor of our soul. Verse 21, it says, yea, she exhorted every one of them in her own language, in the Lashawan Kodash, filled the holy tongue, right? The ancient, pure Hebrew, filled with courageous spirits. She was filled with courageous spirits. Okay? She was filled with courageous spirits, and Adawan Ratazah, the Lord is going to fill us with courageous spirits in the times that we're coming into, right? And stirring up her womanish thoughts with a manly stomach, she said unto them, and I'm not going to read the rest. This is back in 2 Maccabees chapter 6 and verse 20. As it behooved them to come that are resolute to stand out against such things as are not lawful, for love of life to be tasted. So he look, this is just to eat pork. This is just to eat swine. He's like, look, I'd rather die. That's not in our law. That's not in. We have no such custom. Y'all gonna have to kill me. How much more this devil trying to put a micro C-hip in us to track us everywhere? It's gonna cause all type of complications. It's gonna give you cancer, as the prophecy says, a grievous sore. Okay, you're gonna be tracked everywhere you go. Fuck that. I'd rather die gloriously for the name of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai than to stain the covenant of our forefathers. Right? It says, write that. Verse 21, but they that had the charge of that wicked feast, for the old acquaintance they had with the man, taking him aside, besought him to bring flesh of his own provision, such as was lawful for him to use, and make it as if he did eat of the flesh taken from the sacrifice commanded by the king, that in so doing he might be delivered from death, and for the old friendship with Salakia. Let me slow down on that last verse. I'm gonna finish the end. It says, and make it as if he did eat of the flesh taken from the sacrifice commanded by the king. What was his mentality? Fuck the king's commandment. Even they try to be nice to him. They try to show him love. He said, look, Just eat. All right, eat something that's lawful for you to eat. But we're going to tell everybody it's pork. And you can live. Technically, he wasn't defiling himself. Technically, he wasn't defiling. He could have had some chicken. He could have had some lamb. He could have had, some beef. Right? And for himself, he wouldn't have been defiled himself. But that would have that would have stained his reputation, as he's going to go into. It says that in so doing, he might be delivered from death, and for the old friendship with them find favor. But he began to consider discreetly, and as became his age, and the excellency of his ancient years, and the honor of his gray head, whereunto he was come, and his most honest education from a child, or rather the holy law made and given by Yahweh, by Hashem Yahweh Shai. Therefore he answered accordingly. So he thought about everything. He considered everything, right? And it said, and willed them straightways to send him to the grave. He said, fuck that. Y'all can send me to the grave, right? For it becometh not our age, said he, in any wise to dissemble. And there's a scripture in the book of Psalms. King David said, I will not sit. I believe it was King David. The psalmist said, I will not sit with dissemblers, right? It might be Psalms 15. All right. The chapter entitled, A Citizen of Zion. I will not sit with dissemblers, right? Whereby many young persons might think that Eleazar, which a dissembler, another word for dissembler, is a hypocrite. He would have been a hypocrite, right? He's showing everybody, I'm eating pork. Here's the pork that I'm eating, but it really is lamb. He'd be a dissembler. That's not a citizen of Zion. That's not the characteristic of a man that's chosen of Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. It says, whereby many young persons might think that Eleazar, being 80 years old and 90 years old, were now gone to a strange religion. And so they, through mine hypocrisy and desire to live a little more, a little time and a moment longer, should be deceived by me, and I get a stain to mine old age and make it abominable, right? So he said, look, I'm not about to do this. I'm not about to accept this deal just to live a little bit longer. I'd rather die. All right. It's the same mentality that we have to have when the king of Babylon brings forth his commandment of what? Of the sea hit, man. So I'm just looking at, what I got. I only got about like 8 minutes left. So I want to try to hit what I do have. This is First Maccabees chapter 2 and 15. Moses said the same thing. He said, I'd rather not be called the son of Pharaoh's daughter, right? To enjoy sin for a little season, the pleasures of sin for a little season. Fuck all that. Send me to the grave, man. I'd rather die manfully and gloriously for Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai than to stain my honor. Okay? This is the book of First Maccabees chapter 2 and verse 15. Golly. First Maccabees 2 and 15, it says, now, in the meanwhile, the king's officers, such as compelled the people to revolt, came into the city of Modin to make them sacrifice. And when many of it, so the king's officers came in and they were enforcing the king's commandment, right? And when I believe this is Antiochus, right? The king of the Grecians. It says, and when many of Israel came in unto them, Mattathias also and his sons came together, then answered the king's officers and said to Mattathias, on this wise, thou art a ruler and an honorable and great man in this city, and strengthened with sons and brethren. Now therefore come thou first and fulfill the king's commandment, like as all the heathen have done, yea, and the men of Judah also, and such as remain at Jerusalem, so that thou and thy house be in the number of the king's friends, and thou and thy children shall be honored with silver and gold and many rewards. Try to bribe him, right, to fulfill the king's commandment. What was Mattathias' mentality? Then Mattathias answered and spake with a loud voice, though all the nations that are under the king's dominion obey him and fall away every one from the religion of their fathers and give consent to his commandments, yet will I and my sons and my brethren walk in the covenant of our fathers. But for me and my house, we gonna serve Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. Fuck the king's commandments, right? Now, I'm not saying, you still got to work. You still got to pay your bills. All right. You got to have a driver's license. You got to stop at I'm talking about when you're trying to come in between us and our power. That's Daniel, the 6th chapter. I had it written down, but I might not be able to get to it. A decree came out. I believe it was Darius. Which there's multiple Dariuses. All right. But it was one of the Dariuses. But it was a king, a Persian king, I believe. But it's Daniel's the 6th chapter, okay? Salakia for not having all the details. That's why I wanted to read it. But nonetheless, they said, look, you can't pray to no other God. You can only pray to the king, right? Daniel said, fuck that. I'm going to continue to pray to the Lord. As far as everything else, look, if it's not getting in the way of serving Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai, if it's not against the laws of the Lord, then we're gonna follow the laws of the land. Right? Like I said, stop at the stop signs, follow the traffic rules, okay? Pay your bills, go to work, so on and so forth. Law-abiding citizens until you start going contrary to the Bible, right? Until you telling me to do something that my power told me not to do, right? It says, then Mattathias answered and spake with a loud voice. No, Salakia, verse 20. Yet will I and my sons and my brethren walk in the covenant of our fathers. Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai forbid that we should forsake the law and the ordinances. We will not hearken to the king's words to go from our religion, from what? Our religion, from our worship, right? From our law, statutes, and commandments, either on the right hand or the left. Now when he had left speaking these words, there came one of the Jews in the sight of all to sacrifice on the altar which was at Modin, according to the king's commandment. Right. So when Mattathias saw him doing that, when Mattathias saw this man following the king's commandment, he went and slaughtered his ass, man. All right. He was zealous. He says that his reins was shaking, and he went and slaughtered that man. All right, for being a whole ass nigga and following the king's commandments. And that's what the Lord is going to do, man. Anybody, it says they that consent unto them that shall be had in derision. Now, I want to read this in Daniel's the 3rd chapter, and then I got to wrap it up. This is Daniel chapter 3. Lord's will, I'll be able to put both parts together. I genuinely hate having to have 2 parts, especially 1 part, 7 fucking minutes. But anyways, this is Daniel chapter 7. Slakia, Daniel chapter 3 and verse, I'm going to get straight to the point. Daniel chapter 3 and verse 14. Nebuchadnezzar spake and said unto them, is it true, O Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego? Do not ye serve my gods, nor worship the golden image which I have set up? Now, if ye be ready, that at what time ye hear the sound of the cornet, flute, harp, sackbut, psaltery, and dulcimer, and all kinds of music, the hell? Salakia, man. Oh. Anyways, it says, now if ye be ready that at the let me just continue. Now if ye be ready at what time ye hear the sound of the cornet, flute, harp, sackbut, psaltery, and dulcimer, and all kinds of music, ye fall down and worship the image which I have made, well. But if ye worship not, ye shall be cast the same hour into the midst of a burning fiery furnace. And who is that power that shall deliver you out of my hands? Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego answered and said to the king Nebuchadnezzar, we are not careful to answer thee in this matter. If it be so, our power, whom we serve, is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace, and he will deliver us out of thine hand, O king. But if not, be it known unto thee, O king, that we will not serve thy gods, nor worship the golden image which thou hast set up. And then you know the rest of the story. If you don't know the rest of the story, you need to go ask somebody. You need to go read it, man. All right, so that shows you the mentality that we have to be in these times, and in these times that we're in, especially when that commandment comes, when that Revelation 13 and 16 takes place, man. Okay, he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor. Yeah, he's gonna cause all. What did Mattathias say? He said, yeah, all these other heathens, they falling away. All these other heathens, and even a lot of Israelites, is falling away from the law. But as for me and my sons, we're not gonna fall away from the from the Heavenly Father's commandments. We're not gonna break the covenant of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai. Okay. Even in the times of who